The digital clock on Victor Hawk Kane's dashboard read 1:47 a.m. when he signaled his crew to pull into the quick-stop gas station off Interstate 75. 6 motorcycles, their chrome gleaming under the harsh fluorescent lights, rolled to a stop in the nearly empty lot. It was a cold September night in Georgia, the kind that makes your leather feel thin and your bones ache. The Thunderwolves Motorcycle Club had been riding for 11 hours straight, returning from a cancer awareness charity event in Atlanta, where they'd raised $23,000 for Children's Hospital. Victor was proud of his crew, but exhausted didn't begin to cover how they felt. "Fuel up and stretch," Victor called out, dismounting his matte black Harley with a grunt. At 42, he'd been riding for 23 years, 15 as president of the Thunderwolves. His dark brown hair was starting to gray at the temples. His short beard had more silver than he liked to admit. And the full-sleeve tattoos running down both arms told stories of brotherhood, loss, and survival. Beside him, his crew filtered into their usual roles. Carlos Blade Rivera, the sergeant-at-arms with the scar across his eyebrow and perpetual scowl, headed inside to grab coffee. Ruby Raven Jackson, the only woman in the group, and tougher than half the men Victor knew, started pumping gas into her bike. Bear, a mountain of a man at 6'5" and 280 pounds, checked tire pressure. Luis Shadow Morales lit a cigarette and leaned against his bike, while Diego Hammer Cruz pulled out his phone to text his wife they'd be home in 75 miles. Nobody noticed the gray minivan at first. It was parked at Pump 4, engine running, windows dark with illegal tint. The kind of vehicle that blends into any parking lot, forgettable and anonymous, which is exactly why trafficking operations loved them. Ruby noticed it while replacing her gas cap. Something felt wrong. The van had been there when they pulled in. Engine running. No movement inside. No one pumping gas. She'd been a victim advocate for 8 years before joining the Thunderwolves. She knew the signs of something off. "Hawk," Ruby said quietly, not taking her eyes off the van. "Look at Pump 4. Victor turned. At first, he saw nothing unusual. Just a van. Then he saw it a small section of the rear passenger window, where the tint had peeled away, creating a gap no bigger than a credit card. And in that gap, pressed against the glass, was a child's hand. Victor's blood went cold. The hand was tiny, pale, fingers splayed against the window as if reaching for help. Then a face appeared in the gap, a little girl, maybe 8 or 9, with tangled blonde hair and eyes so wide with terror they looked too big for her face. Her lips moved. Victor couldn't hear through the glass, but he could read them clearly. Then she pressed something against the window. A piece of torn notebook paper with words written in what looked like purple marker. "Kidnapped. Help." For 3 seconds, the world stopped spinning. Then, Victor's 23 years of experience, Marine Corps combat veteran, crisis responder, club president, kicked into overdrive. "Blade." Victor's voice cut through the night like a blade. "Get back here now. Ruby, keep eyes on that van. Don't let it move. Bear, block the exit with your bike. Shadow, call 911 right now." His crew moved like a machine. No questions. No hesitation. Within 15 seconds, Bear's massive Harley was positioned directly behind the van's bumper, blocking any reverse escape. Shadow had his phone to his ear. Ruby positioned herself at the driver's side door. Blade came running out of the station. "Coffee forgotten." "What have we got?" Blade asked, hand instinctively moving to the tire iron strapped to his belt. "Kidnapped child in that van," Victor said, his voice deadly calm. "Driver's inside the station. We need to stall him until police arrive." Inside the quick stop, a man stood at the register paying for gas and energy drinks. Late 30s, greasy brown hair, 3-day stubble, wearing a stained jacket despite the warm Georgia night. His name was Travis Reed, though Victor didn't know that yet. What Victor would learn later was that Travis had 5 warrants in 3 states for child abduction, trafficking, and assault, and that the little girl in his van, Sophie Martinez, had been missing from a Birmingham mall parking lot for 7 hours. The cashier, a young woman named Madison, processed his payment while making small talk she didn't care about. Travis kept glancing toward the window, toward his van, nervous energy radiating from every gesture. Then he saw them. 6 bikers in leather vests, surrounding his vehicle like wolves around prey, the massive bald one blocking his exit. The woman with the red bandana, staring directly at his driver's window. The tall one with the gray beard, clearly the leader on the phone. Travis's face went white. He grabbed his change, didn't wait for his receipt, and moved toward the door. Blade stepped directly into his path. "Excuse me, brother," Blade said, his tone friendly but his 6-foot frame filling the doorway completely. "You dropped your keys." "I didn't drop nothing," Travis said, his voice tight. "Move." "Pretty sure you did." Blade didn't budge an inch. "Right there by the candy aisle." "Why don't you go check?" Behind him, Madison had already hit the silent alarm button under the counter. She'd worked this station for 2 years and had seen enough sketchy people to recognize when something was very wrong. Outside, Victor kept his phone to his ear while moving closer to the van. Through the gap in the tint, he could see Sophie clearly now. She was restrained, somehow he couldn't tell exactly how, but she was crying silently, tears streaming down her young face. "Stay with me, sweetheart," Victor said through the glass, keeping his voice gentle despite the rage building in his chest. "My name's Victor. I'm not going to let anything happen to you. The police are coming. You're going to be okay." Sophie's lips trembled. She mouthed 2 words. "He's coming back." Quote. Victor looked toward the station. Through the glass doors, he could see Blade blocking Travis. The standoff wouldn't last much longer. Shadow appeared at Victor's elbow. 911 says units are 4 minutes out. They want us to back off. Not engage. 4 minutes is too long, Victor said. That piece of trash comes out here. Sees we've made him. He's either going to run or do something desperate. Either way, that little girl's in danger. Ruby moved closer, her voice low. "Hawk, I can see through the driver's window. There's a gun on the dashboard. Looks like a .38 revolver. Perfect. Armed suspect, kidnapped child, 6 bikers with good intentions, but no legal authority. And police, still 4 minutes away." Inside the station, Travis made his move. He shoved Blade hard, trying to force his way through the door. Blade barely moved. Travis might as well have pushed a brick wall, but the shove gave Carlos what he needed legally. Assault. He grabbed Travis's wrist, twisted it behind his back in one fluid motion, learned from 15 years in security work, and slammed him face first against the glass door. "You're not going anywhere, you sick son of a bitch," Blade growled in his ear. Travis struggled, kicked, screamed something about rights and lawyers. Madison came out from behind the counter with zip ties, the same kind they used to secure delivery boxes. And within 30 seconds, they had Travis on the ground, hands secured behind his back. But Victor wasn't watching the takedown. His eyes were on the van, on Sophie's terrified face. Because she wasn't looking at him anymore. She was looking past him, toward the highway. That's when Victor heard the engine. Another vehicle, a dark blue sedan screeching into the parking lot. Headlights off, moving fast. "Hawk!" Ruby screamed. "Second vehicle." The sedan slammed to a stop 20 feet away. 2 men jumped out. Armed. One with a shotgun, one with a pistol. The second half of Travis's operation. Coming to check on their package, everything slowed down. Victor saw the shotgun rising, saw Bear moving to shield Ruby, saw Shadow diving for cover behind a pump, heard the distinctive sound of a shell being racked into a chamber. Then came the sirens. Not 4 minutes away, 30 seconds away, because the Georgia State Patrol had been running radar half a mile up the road and had gotten the child in danger call directly from dispatch. 3 patrol cars, lights blazing, tires screaming, flooded into the parking lot from 2 different entrances. The 2 armed men from the sedan froze, caught between their weapons and the inevitable. One of them, the smarter one, dropped his gun and put his hands up immediately. The other hesitated for 3 seconds that would add 10 years to his sentence, then did the same. Within 90 seconds, both men were on the ground in handcuffs. Within 3 minutes, Travis was being loaded into the back of a patrol car, screaming about false arrest and police brutality. And within 5 minutes, a female state trooper was carefully cutting the zip ties off Sophie Martinez's wrists while a paramedic checked her for injuries. Victor stood back, giving them space, watching as Sophie emerged from that van into the harsh lights and cold air. She was wearing a purple sweater with butterflies on it, jeans, and one sneaker the other must have fallen off during the abduction. Her blonde hair was tangled, her face swollen from crying. The female trooper, Officer Lisa Rodriguez, wrapped a blanket around Sophie's shoulders and knelt to her level. "Sophie, honey, you're safe now. Your mom's on her way. She's driving from Birmingham right now." Sophie's chin trembled. "I want my mom." "I know, sweetheart. She'll be here in about an hour. Can I get you anything? Water? Something to eat?" Sophie's eyes found Victor standing near his bike. "That man," she said quietly, pointing at him. "He saw my sign. He called the police." Officer Rodriguez looked at Victor with new appreciation. "You, the one who made the call?" "Me and my crew," Victor said. "We saw her sign in the window. Couldn't just ride away." "Lucky you stopped here," Rodriguez said. Victor shook his head. "Luck had nothing to do with it, ma'am. That little girl was smart enough to write that sign and brave enough to put it where someone would see it. She saved herself. We just helped finish the job." But Sophie was shaking her head, tears flowing fresh now. "I thought nobody would see it. I thought nobody would care. Then I saw you looking and I thought you might be with him. That you were bad people too." Those words hit Victor like a punch to the chest. This child had been so traumatized, she couldn't even trust her rescuers at first. "We're not bad people, sweetheart," Ruby said, stepping forward gently. "We're just people who ride motorcycles and don't like bullies. Especially bullies who hurt kids." The paramedic finished his examination. "She's dehydrated and has some bruising, but nothing that won't heal. She should be checked out at the hospital to be safe." "I want to wait for my mom," Sophie said quietly but firmly. Rodriguez nodded. "We'll wait with you. Your mom's about 45 minutes out now." As they settled in to wait, Detective Sarah Thompson arrived on scene, a 15-year veteran with the Georgia Bureau of Investigation's Crimes Against Children Unit. She was mid-40s, sharp-eyed, no-nonsense, and had seen enough horror in her career to fill several lifetimes. After getting briefed by the troopers, she approached Victor and his crew. "Mr. Kane, I'm Detective Thompson. I need statements from all of you." For the next hour, they sat in the gas station telling their story again and again. How they noticed the van. How they saw the sign. How they blocked the exits and called 911. How the accomplices showed up armed. "You took a hell of a risk," Thompson said quietly to Victor. "If those armed suspects had arrived 30 seconds earlier, before the troopers, we might be processing a very different crime scene right now." "I know," Victor said, "but that little girl was in that van." Thompson studied him for a long moment. Then she pulled out her phone and showed him a photo. "Recognize her?" It was a missing person flyer. An 11-year-old named Maya Collins vanished from a park in Jacksonville, Florida, 4 months ago. Travis Reed and his network have been operating for 3 years that we know of, Thompson said quietly. 7 children confirmed abducted. 4 recovered, thanks to anonymous tips. 2 still missing, including Maya. And 1. She paused. 1 we found too late. Victor's hands clenched into fists. "And you're telling me this, why?" "Because Travis's phone, which we just confiscated, has a text thread that mentions the Georgia run. We think Sophie was being transported to a buyer. And we think there might be information on that phone that leads us to Maya Collins. She let that sink in, then she extended her hand. You and your crew didn't just save Sophie Martinez tonight, Mr. Kane. You might have just blown open the biggest trafficking ring in the Southeast. So, thank you. 2. Victor shook her hand. But the gratitude felt hollow. Because somewhere out there, Maya Collins was still missing. And until she came home, the job wasn't done. At 4:23 a.m., a silver Honda CR-V came screaming into the parking lot. A woman, Jennifer Martinez, age 37, jumped out before the car fully stopped and ran toward the ambulance, where Sophie sat wrapped in blankets. Sophie, Mom, the reunion was everything a reunion should be. Tears, tight hugs, whispered promises that everything would be okay. Sophie clung to her mother like a drowning person to a life raft, and Jennifer held her daughter like she'd never let go again. After several minutes, Jennifer looked up at the group of bikers standing respectfully in the background. Her eyes were red and swollen, but her voice was clear. You're the ones who found her. It wasn't a question. Victor nodded. Jennifer stood, still holding Sophie's hand, and walked over to them. Then this 5'4" mother of two looked up at 6 leather-clad bikers and said 5 words that would change all their lives. How do I thank you? Victor Hawk Kane didn't have an answer to Jennifer Martinez's question. How do you thank someone for doing what any decent human being should do? How do you put a price on a child's life? You don't need to thank us, ma'am, Victor said quietly. You just take care of your daughter. That's all the thanks we need. But Jennifer shook her head, tears streaming down her face. No, you don't understand. I've been searching for 7 hours. 7 hours of calling police, calling hospitals, driving around Birmingham screaming her name. I thought. Her voice broke. I thought I'd lost her forever. Sophie tugged her mother's hand. Mom, they blocked the van so he couldn't leave. The tall one called the police. The lady with the red bandana stayed with me the whole time until the police came. They saved me. Jennifer looked at each member of the Thunderwolves. Victor, with his gray-streaked beard and steel-gray eyes. Ruby, with her fierce, protective stance. Bear, towering over everyone. Blade, with his scarred face. Shadow, leaning against his bike. Diego, quietly watching. These weren't the dangerous criminals the news made bikers out to be. These were guardians. I don't know how to repay you, Jennifer said, but I will find a way. I promise you that. 3 weeks later, Victor got a phone call that would change everything. Mr. Kane? This is Amanda Foster from Channel 8 News. Jennifer Martinez gave us your contact information. We'd like to do a story about what happened at the Quick Stop. About how your motorcycle club saved her daughter. Victor's first instinct was to say no. The Thunderwolves didn't do what they did for publicity. They did charity rides, helped veterans, supported their community, but they did it quietly. No cameras, no fanfare, just brothers, helping their community. But then Amanda said something that made him reconsider. Mr. With Canacane with prize, with Canacane with Kane. There are still 2 children missing from Travis Reed's trafficking network. Maya Collins and Tyler Bennett. If we run this story, if we show that ordinary people can make a difference, maybe someone else will pay attention. Maybe someone will see something. Maybe we bring those kids home. Victor thought about Maya Collins. 11 years old. Missing for 4 months. Somewhere out there. Terrified. Waiting for someone to notice. To care. To act. Okay, he said. We'll do the interview. The story aired on a Tuesday night. Channel 8 ran a 6-minute segment showing Sophie's reunion with her mother, interviewing Victor and his crew, explaining how 6 bikers on their way home from a charity event had stopped a trafficking operation. They included photos of Maya Collins and Tyler Bennett, asking viewers to call with any information. Within 24 hours, the segment had gone viral. 3 million views on YouTube, shared across Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. News outlets from CNN to local papers picked it up. Bikers save kidnapped girl became national news. But more importantly, the tip line started ringing. Detective Sarah Thompson called Victor on Thursday morning, 3 days after the story aired. A truck driver saw the news segment, remembered seeing a van matching the description at a rest stop in South Carolina 2 days ago. Local police moved in an hour ago. They found Tyler Bennett alive in an abandoned warehouse. He's safe, Mr. Kane. He's coming home. Victor sat down hard, his legs suddenly weak. And Maya? Thompson's voice softened. Still looking. But we're getting closer. The information from Travis's phone, combined with these new tips, we're building a map of the whole operation. We'll find her. The following Saturday, the Thunderwolves clubhouse was packed. Not just with club members, but with the community. Jennifer Martinez had organized what she called a thank you celebration for the bikers. But it had grown into something much bigger. Over 200 people showed up. Parents with their children. Local business owners. Veterans. Teachers. The mayor of their small Georgia town even made an appearance. Tables were piled with food. A local band played. Children ran around the parking lot, drawing on the pavement with chalk. Sophie was there, wearing a Thunderwolves support t-shirt. Jennifer had made specially purple with a wolf logo, and the words, "My heroes ride motorcycles." She stayed close to her mother, but smiled more than she had in the 3 weeks since her rescue. Therapy was helping. Time was helping. Being home was helping. But the biggest surprise came when Jennifer took the microphone. "I want to thank everyone for coming today," she said, her voice carrying across the crowd. "But I especially want to thank the Thunderwolves Motorcycle Club. Not just for saving my daughter, though I'll never be able to thank them enough for that, but for showing all of us what real heroism looks like." She paused, wiping her eyes. "After Sophie came home, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about the other children out there. The ones still missing. The ones still in danger. So I did something. I started a foundation." Jennifer held up a banner. "The Sophie's Light Foundation. Fighting child. Trafficking through community awareness. Child. Jennifer. Child. We've already raised $62,000, Jennifer continued. Money that will go towards supporting law enforcement investigations, providing therapy for survivors, and most importantly, teaching communities how to recognize the signs of trafficking and what to do when they see something wrong." The crowd erupted in applause. But Jennifer wasn't done. "And the Thunderwolves have agreed to be our founding partners. They're going to help us organize awareness rides across the Southeast, teach people that heroes don't always wear badges. Sometimes they wear leather and ride Harleys." Victor stood there, stunned. This wasn't what he'd signed up for. He'd just wanted to help a kid in danger. Now they were founding partners in an anti-trafficking foundation? Ruby elbowed him in the ribs. "Speech, boss." Victor took the microphone reluctantly. Public speaking wasn't his thing. Fighting? Sure. Fixing bikes? Absolutely. Standing in front of 200 people, trying to find words that mattered? Terrifying. "I'm not good at speeches," Victor started. "But I'll tell you what I told the police that night. We didn't do anything special. We just saw someone who needed help, and we helped them. That's what people are supposed to do." He looked out at the crowd. At all these faces. Families. Children. People who'd come just to say thank you to some bikers who'd done the right thing. But if you want to honor what happened that night, don't just thank us. Pay attention. Look around you. If you see something that doesn't feel right, a kid who looks scared, a situation that seems off, don't look away. Don't assume someone else will handle it. You handle it. Call the police. Make noise. Be the person who gives a damn." He paused. "Because somewhere right now, there's another Sophie, another Tyler, another Maya, waiting for someone to notice, waiting for someone to care. Be that someone." The applause was deafening. 6 weeks after the rescue, Detective Thompson called with news Victor had been praying for. "We found her. We found Maya Collins." Victor's breath caught. "Is she?" "She's alive." malnourished, traumatized, but alive. We raided a house in Tallahassee early this morning, based on financial records we pulled from Travis Reed's operation. Maya was there along with 2 other girls we didn't even know were missing. Thompson's voice got thick. She's been gone 4 months, Victor. 4 months of hell. But she's coming home now, and it's because you and your crew didn't look away that night at the gas station. Everything that happened after the news story, the tips, the investigation, it all started because 6 bikers decided to give a damn. When Victor hung up, he sat alone in the clubhouse for a long time. Ruby found him there an hour later, staring at a photo on the wall, the Thunderwolves, at last year's Veterans Memorial Ride. All of them smiling, not knowing that 12 months later, they'd be national news for saving a child's life. You okay? Ruby asked. Maya Collins is alive, Victor said. They found her. She's coming home. Ruby's eyes filled with tears. Thank God. Thompson said it's because of us. Because we stopped that night. Ruby sat down beside him. You know what I think? I think we were supposed to be there. All the years of riding, all the charity work, all the times people looked at us and saw criminals instead of community members. It was all leading to that moment. That gas station. That little girl. That choice to act instead of looking away. Victor nodded slowly. Blade wants to organize a ride to Jacksonville for when Maya comes home. A escort. Show her that good people outnumber bad people. Good, Ruby said. I'm in. 2 months after Sophie's rescue, the Thunderwolves led a convoy of 150 motorcycles through Jacksonville, Florida. They'd come from 6 states: Georgia, Florida, Alabama, Tennessee, South Carolina, North Carolina. Different clubs, different patches, different backgrounds, but united in one purpose: welcoming Maya Collins home. The 11-year-old girl who'd been missing for 4 months stood on her front porch with her parents, watching in awe as wave after wave of motorcycles rolled past. Some riders carried American flags, others carried signs reading, "Welcome home, Maya," and "Never give up hope." Victor led the convoy. Sophie Martinez, riding in the sidecar of his bike, the guest of honor, the survivor who'd started it all, with a purple marker and a piece of notebook paper. When the convoy stopped in front of Maya's house, Sophie climbed out of the sidecar and walked up to the porch. 2 girls, 8 and 11, strangers 4 months ago, now connected by trauma and survival, looked at each other for a long moment. Then Maya spoke. You're the one from the news. The one they saved. Sophie nodded. They saved you too. My mom says we're going to be okay. That it gets better. It does, Sophie said with the wisdom of someone twice her age. It takes time, but it gets better. The 2 girls hugged, and there wasn't a dry eye on that street. That night, at a community celebration in Maya's honor, Victor stood with Jennifer Martinez and Maya's parents, watching the Thunderwolves teach neighborhood kids how to properly check a motorcycle's tire pressure. You know what the best part is? Jennifer said. It's not just about Sophie and Maya and Tyler coming home, though God knows that's everything. It's about how many people are paying attention now. How many people have called the foundation, saying they saw our story, and now they're watching. They're aware. They know the signs. Maya's father, a quiet man named Robert Collins, spoke up. 3 weeks ago, a woman in Alabama saw a teenager who looked scared at a rest stop. She remembered your story. She called police. Turned out the girl was a runaway being trafficked. They got her out, got her help. He looked at Victor. That's because of you. Because you showed people what it looks like to care. Victor shook his head. That's because people are good. They just needed a reminder that they can make a difference. 6 months after that cold September night at the Quick Stop, Victor stood at a podium in Washington, D.C. The Sophie's Light Foundation had grown so big, so fast, that they'd been invited to testify before a congressional committee on human trafficking prevention. Victor, in his Thunderwolves vest and his weathered leather, stood before senators and representatives and told them the same thing he'd been saying for 6 months. It's not about being a hero. It's about being a human being who gives a damn. He told Sophie's story. Told how a piece of notebook paper and a child's bravery had started a chain reaction. How news coverage led to tips. How tips led to rescues. How one gas station stop had led to the rescue of 5 children and the arrest of 17 traffickers. The Thunderwolves didn't set out to fight human trafficking, Victor said. We're just bikers who do charity work and help our community. But we learned something that night. Sometimes, the biggest impact comes from the smallest action. From paying attention. From caring. From refusing to look away. He looked directly at the committee. You want to stop trafficking, fund tip lines, support survivor services, but most importantly, teach people to pay attention, because the next Sophie Martinez is out there right now, and she's waiting for someone to see her sign. The testimony went viral. The foundation's funding doubled. And across America, people started paying attention. Back in Georgia, at the Thunderwolves clubhouse, a wall was dedicated to the children. Photos of Sophie, smiling at her 8th birthday party. Tyler Bennett, playing Little League again. Maya Collins at her middle school graduation 3 years later. And 12 other faces, children found, rescued, brought home because someone, somewhere, had seen something and refused to look away. Victor stood looking at that wall one quiet evening, Ruby beside him. You ever think about that night? Ruby asked. About what would have happened if we'd just driven past that gas station. If we'd stopped 10 minutes earlier. Or later. Every day, Victor admitted. But I try not to think about the what-ifs. I just think about Sophie and Maya and Tyler and all the others. They're home. They're safe. That's what matters. Think we made a difference? Ruby asked. Victor smiled. I think a brave little girl with a purple marker made a difference. We just helped finish the job. Rover sense. But deep down, Victor knew the truth. Sometimes the most dangerous-looking people, the ones covered in tattoos and leather, the ones society crosses the street to avoid, are the ones who fight hardest to protect innocence. Sometimes heroes ride motorcycles, and sometimes all it takes is one moment, one choice, one refusal to look away, to change everything.